Let's learn income tax. So, in any country, the wage and the salary earners pay income tax on all their incomes. Different countries have different rules. In Ireland, we have an income tax where we have to pay the tax in two specific rates. So, if you have an income, you have to pay tax at a standard rate or at a higher rate. The rate differs, so sometimes it could be 20% and 40%, and this is sometimes changed. So you need not memorize this, but during your question, in your question, you will be given the values for these percentages, and you can work on this. Okay. Now, how do we calculate the standard rate and higher rate? For standard rate, you have a cutoff point, which is called standard rate cutoff point. So that is the amount for which this is a cutoff point. That is the amount for which you will have to pay 20%, and the rest of the amount you will have to pay a higher rate. For example, if you have 50,000 as a salary and the standard cutoff rate is 30,000, you will have to pay 30,000. For 30,000, you have to pay 20% of the salary, and for the rest of 20,000, you have to pay 40%. Now you calculate this and you will be getting the value. Now once you have the tax find the tax. So the tax payable is equal to the gross tax. Gross tax is the tax which you calculate minus the tax credit. So tax credit is something but the reduction of the tax which the government allows, because depending on your personal circumstances. So if you have a tax credit allocated to you, as you find the tax, you can subtract the tax credit and you have to pay only that much amount as a tax payable. So this is one equation which you have to remember. In all the tax calculation, this will be required. So let us first try to see how you calculate tax in a normal scenario, and then we can look at questions where we have to work backwards and find out the gross income or things like that. Okay, so let us try to work on this question. Maybe you can pause the video, read the question, try to understand, and then move forward. So here a woman has a grossly income of 39,500. She has a standard cutoff rate of 23,600 and the tax credit is 3,950. The standard rate is 20% and the higher rate is 42%. So the first question is calculate the gross tax for the year. So please listen to this carefully. If you learn this method, you can do any question on the tax. So first of all, you have a gross yearly income. So always the tax is calculated on a yearly income. So what you do is like you write 39,500 and then you see what is the standard rate cutoff point. So it is 23,600. So what you do is you split this amount into 23,600 and the rest is 15,900. So this is your first step. And for 23,600, you have to calculate 20%, and for this one, you have to calculate 42%. So you put it into the calculator and you will get 4,720 here. And for this one, you get 6,678. Now this is the tax for the normal standard rate and this is for the higher rate. Now you add these two, you will get 11398. So this is the gross tax. Okay, so remember this method. As soon as you get the gross salary, you divide it into 2, and for the 20% you calculate, for the other next percentage you calculate, and total added, and that is the gross tax. Okay, now for the second question, what they are asking, amount of tax paid. So we know that if they have a tax credit, you have to subtract it. Whenever there is a question, look for tax credit. If you have tax credit, subtract it. So the tax paid is equal to gross tax minus tax credit. Okay, so let me just take this and put it down because I want to continue the calculation. So now here with the same thing we have tax credit. So you have the tax credit of 3,950 here. So I subtract this and I get 7,448. So that is the total tax payable, and this is the gross tax and net tax. There's some different words. So this is net tax. There are different words which we use, either tax paid or net tax. Okay, so always remember this picture. Like as I said, you start from we'll just take a different color. Yeah, you start from the gross tax, you split it into two depending on the standard cutoff rate, and for each cut you write the cutoff rate like this. Then you calculate it using the calculator, add it together, you will get the gross tax in this line. Then you subtract the tax credit, and then you get the net tax. Always keep this alignment, keep this method of doing for the tax ones. You will be able to do any tax questions. Okay, so I'm going to show you a different type of tax question where you need to work backwards, and with this picture in mind you will be able to do it much easier. Okay, so maybe you can pause this video. If you don't know how to calculate the tax, pause this video, go to your textbook, find out some tax questions and try to do it. See whether the answers are correct from the back of the textbook, and then you get a practice and it will be very easy for you. Now moving on to a different question. So as I said before, you can pause this question and read the question and try to understand this. Okay, so here they have given the gross income. So I'm just going to highlight the numbers. So gross income of this one, total tax payable amounts to this one. Standard cutoff rate is 32,000. It's a 20% and 42%, and you have to find tax credit. So let us try to remember those pictures and try to remember the picture lines and then try to fill it up. So you have a gross income of 50,000 and standard cutoff rate is 32,000. So the same thing follows. So 32,000 here, and it is at 20%. There is some amount here which we don't know now, which has to be done at 42%, and then you will get a value here, you will get another value here, and you have to add it to get the gross tax. Okay, so gross tax also we don't know. Then you have tax credit, that is something which you have to find out. This is the question mark. Tax payable. Okay, so this minus, you get tax payable, that is equal to 10,460. Okay, so this is how we need to, this is the values which they have given, and the rest are something which we don't know. So let us try to calculate. So we have the gross income here as 50,000, and 32,000 is the value which is there for the standard rate. Now if that is 32,000, what will be the remaining amount here? Remaining amount will be 18,000. Okay, now with this amount you can calculate. So first thing is 32,000 of 20,000, that will be 6,400. You can use the calculator, and 18,000 42% is 7,200. Now we know we have to add that, and it is 13,600. Okay, and then you have it, we don't know the tax credit, but you have the tax payable and you have the gross tax. So what you have to do, you have to subtract these two, and you will get 3140 as the tax credit. Okay, so for every question, try to draw a diagram like this, or try to imagine the diagram and then fill up the informations. That is the easiest way to do these kind of questions. Now let's move on to the next question. Okay, now same thing. A man paid 10,775. Okay, this is one amount. Here's a tax credit of this one, and cutoff point of this one, 15% and 36%. And the first question is amount of income taxed at the rate of 36%. Okay, so for the first question we will try to fill up everything. He paid tax for this much amount, and the standard rate is, okay, so the initial gross amount is something which we don't know, but we know the standard standard cutoff point is to 28,500. We don't know this one, and this is at 15% and this is at 36%, and you will get one value here, then you get another value here, then you add it together, you get gross tax Okay, so here what they have given is tax paid. Okay, and then he has a tax credit which is 1960, and then net tax paid, net tax or tax paid, both are the same, so it is 10,775. so we have these many information here. Now from these information you need to fill up all the blanks and then go ahead. So initially what you can see is that there you have a net tax and then the tax credit, so which means that you can find the gross tax, which will be sum of these two. Okay, because usually we subtract this gross tax minus tax credit. So now to find the gross tax you can just add it together, so it is like 12735. Okay, you got this. Now what you can see is you have the 28,500 and 15 percentage. We know that value, we can use the calculator, so it is like 4,275, and then you know that the sum of these two is 12,735. so what you can do is like you can just add it, subtract 12,000 this one from this one, and you get 8,460. Okay, now look at this branch. Some 36 percentage of some value is 8,460. so you can easily find that out by 8,460 divided by 36 percentage, and that will amount to 23,500. now since you have both of these value, you can add it together, you can get that 52,000 value. Okay, so the first question and the second question are done together with this particular arrangement. Okay. Let's do one more question on this. So here same wise we have 20 percentage and 42 percentage, and the tax credit is this, standard cutoff rate is this. She has a gross income of 45,000. Calculate the tax payable. So it is a very straightforward question. So first one, you have 45,000 here, and standard cutoff rate is 22,000, and that has to be done in 20 percentage, and the rest is 23,000, which has to be calculated with 42 percentage, and you have the values 4,400 and 9,660 will be the values, and you get 14060. Okay, and then minus the tax credit. So this is the gross tax, and you have the tax credit here. So tax credit is 2,700, and then the total amount is 11360. Okay, it's a very straightforward question. The twist comes in the second one. Tony pays tax at the same rates as Sheila. Tony has tax credit of 2,900 and has the same standard cutoff point as Sheila. So that is where we have to work backwards. His total tax payable amount to 13,600 for the year. Okay, calculate Tony's gross income for the year. So I'm just making it small so that I can work here only. So tax credit. So we want to find the gross income. So this is what you have to find out. Sorry, let me just bring it to this side so that I can easily do it here only. Okay. So this is the second one I'm trying to do. So we have to find the gross income, and they have said that the same cutoff point, so it is like 22,000 as 20 percentage here, and we don't know the higher value, so it should go with 42 percentage. We don't know, we have to find that out. 42 percentage. Now you'll get a value here, and you will get a value here, and then you have the gross tax here, tax credit. So whatever we don't know, we can just put it like this. Oh, here's the tax credit is given already, so it is 2,900 is the tax credit, and net taxes 13,680. So we have the net tax, we have the tax credit. You can find the gross tax as 16,580. You just need to add it together, and then the first value, you know, to 22,000 to 20%, it is 4,400. We know from the previous calculation, and since we know both of this, you can just subtract it and you get 12180. And some values to 42% is 12180. So similar to the previous one, you need to divide it, so you will get 29000 here, and when you add it together you get 51000. Okay, so any question comes of tax, income tax, you build this structure and you will be able to do the questions and find the values which are required. So whatever be this thing, you draw the structure and try to build it up. So please practice with some questions out of your textbook and try to see whether you are able to fill the values, whether you are getting the correct values, etc.